Hello, and welcome back to the back of the pack world of running behind. I'm Joey Metzger, your slow running host and guide. And today we're joined by Erik and Mario, a couple of local trail running friends who are here to share their experiences and stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We'll talk about Erik's first 50K and how in that same race, Mario recounts the tale of his gallant gesture of carrying the race bib and spirit of a friend and fellow runner who had passed away just weeks before. We also get to hear about Erik's amazing adventures at the 2025 Black Canyon races, where, spoiler alert, he not only finished a 50K, but learned how to schedule an Uber and hitchhike in rural Arizona, not to mention the new friend he made who goes by the name of Jim Walmsley. This one runs a bit long, but stay on the ride. I promise you'll have fun. So sit back or get on those shoes and head out for your long run. But we've got to get going because we are so running behind. Yeah, so guys, let's get started. I'll have you each introduce yourselves. Erik, you are?
I'm Erik Spiegler, Minnesota ultra trail runner.
And Mario?
Mario Frucci, local trail runner, local running crazy guy that everyone sees running around at all hours of the day. So
wonderful. I have, any good podcast has a couple of, cold open SNL style questions. I thought, well, I better have a couple for these guys. So you guys have not heard these before, so I apologize for that. But like I said, this is just casual. We're just going to have a conversation. So my cold plunge questions for you, and we'll start with Erik. One word that describes yourself as a person.
Stubborn.
Love it. Mario?
Determined. Right along that same vine.
Got it. Now, one word that describes you as a runner.
Stubborn.
Mario?
Consistent.
Got it. And then we'll start with Mario. My last cold plunge question. Why are you doing this pod? Why are you here?
I am here because...
Why are you on this pod with us, with me?
I love running. I love talking about running. Running is not something that comes naturally to me, but it's become a major part of my life over the last 7 years since I did my first trail race back in 2018. So any opportunity I have to talk running and talk about running, gear, races, all of it, it's a welcome opportunity.
Great. And Erik?
I'm here because we were showing Joey one of our local trails. Mario and I live relatively close, so we were hosting Joey at one of our local trails, and Mario and I had been having conversations about me kind of challenging him to go all in on social media this year and kind of see what he can do with that. And you said you were thinking about starting a podcast, and I said, yep, you got to do it. I think that there's a lot of running media, but I think a lot of it comes from the front or middle, but I would say front middle of the pack, and there's not a lot of voices for the people who grind it out and have long days out there. And so I think it's good to have that heard.
Love it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for agreeing to do this crazy thing with me. I was telling somebody the other day, they're like, oh, you're doing another creative venture. I'm like, yeah, I'm a former actor who doesn't have enough outlets. So this is just another way for me to be creative. But exactly like you guys said, too, I love preaching the gospel of running, and I love being a voice from the back of the pack. I was messaging with Ben Mead of Chasing Cutoffs, and I just loved what he did, and I kind of want to carry that torch a little bit and do some more from the back of the pack. So awesome, guys. Thanks for agreeing to my crazy ideas. We're running through the trails up there by your guys' place. Okay, so let's kind of jump into this. Erik, we'll start with you, but what I would love to learn, and I'm sure the audience would, is kind of like, I don't know if you guys listened to the first podcast I did. I think you did, but what is your history? How did you get into running, and what did you do athletically as a kid? You heard my story. I'm still not athletic. I was very unathletic. I did very little. What's your history? When did you first start running or doing athletics?
So I have been doing athletics my whole life. I was a 3-sport athlete all the way through high school. I played football, hockey, baseball, and then golfed quite a bit in the summer. But none of that involved running, short sprints, weightlifting, that kind of stuff. So I have a background in it. Went off to college, didn't play any ball, played intramural hockey and pickleball and that kind of stuff. But
you have to play hockey in Minnesota, right? It's a requirement to play hockey here.
Yeah, you get, when you're born at the hospital, you get your birth certificate and a stick, and they say go have fun. So I went off to college, played intramural, got done with college, and was moving back in with my parents. Had really kind of got out of shape in college. Job wasn't super demanding, so I had a lot of free time. Didn't want to be at home with my parents. So started running. Couldn't run a mile, and there's a 5-mile loop in my town around a lake, and so my goal was kind of to do that. Did that, and ultimately ended up training for the Twin Cities 5K, and that's where it all started. Was Twin Cities 5K.
Erik, is the 5K the same weekend as the Twin Cities Marathon and 10 mile?
Yep, it's the Saturday before. You start at the Capitol, go a mile and a half out, end at the Capitol. Yep.
Isn't there some crazy thing with like you do like all of them or something? Yep. I forget what they call that. You can't do the 10 mile and the marathon because they're the same time, but
yeah, it's the TC Looney Challenge. I just did it this fall actually. So you run the 5K, 10K on Saturday morning, and then run the 10 mile. And then there's the TC Ultra Looney Challenge where you do 5K, 10K, and the marathon.
Okay, got it.
Highly recommend.
All right, so heading back to your story, so you start and you train, you do the Twin Cities 5K, and then where do you go from there?
I grew up with a kid who was just a nasty athlete, played college baseball, kind of tore up his shoulder, joined the Army, and must have found a love for endurance sports in the Army. I don't know his whole story. His name's Alec Earhart. He started doing these ultras. So I saw him actually post one time finishing the Wild Duluth 100K, and I was covered in mud. He's in a singlet, 3-inch split shorts, just covered in mud. I'm like, man, that looks way more fun than what I'm doing. So kind of took up trail running, and actually the first trail race I trained for was the Trail Mix 25K in Rockford, Minnesota.
Okay, yeah, that's in the spring, right? Every spring? I think it's the same time as Storm the Park, the Storm Trail guys.
Or Zumbro. So that's why I've never done Zumbro.
Okay. Yeah. So that's how you got started. And how long ago was that, Erik?
That would have been like 2017, I believe. I think I did the 2018 Trail Mix, and we got 13 inches of snow the Wednesday before. So it was a hard introduction into Type 2 fun.
That's great. Well, I got more questions for you, but let's hear about you. When did you start running? Who are you running from? Why are you running?
That's a really good question. So I guess kind of like Erik, I've always been an athlete growing up. I played soccer. I mean, if you could name a sport, I played it outside of basketball. Basketball and wrestling were the only two organized sports that I didn't play. So I played football for a couple of seasons. I played baseball. I played hockey since I was 7 years old. That was the first sport that I ever fell in love with, and it consumed my life for most of my youth, all the way through high school. I was the assistant captain on the varsity hockey team, and that was my life. And then I went to college, and I was always told to have a dedicated pair of shoes to whatever activity. So if you're going to have an outdoor pair of shoes that you'd use splitting wood on the weekends, or have a dedicated pair of running shoes. So I've always had a pair of running shoes, but I've never really used them for running. Could never really run more than a mile because I'd go too fast and get shin splints and get defeated and walk home. And then in college, I met a friend that we used to go on long distance backpacking trips, hiking. And so we would go on the Superior Hiking Trail, and it started out with 10, 12 miles in a weekend. And all of a sudden we were doing 30, 40 miles in 4 or 5 days. And this friend suggested that we do a trail half marathon. And I kind of just said, well, we've hiked that far in a day, so why not give it a shot? And so I did it. We trained for it. And I did a couple of the Rock Steady Running Endless Summer
Mario,
Trail
how
Runner
long
series.
Did you train for that?
So we signed up. That race is in October. We ended up doing at the time it was called the Harder Than Hell Half Marathon. Now it's the Harder Than Heck Half Marathon, part of the Wild Duluth series in October. We signed up for that, I think, in May. And the Endless Summer trail series had just opened up by Rocksteady Running, and I had never actually run a trail race before. So I did that entire series that summer to prepare for this half marathon race. And that race destroyed me. That was hard. And when I finished that race, the race director, Kim, handed me my finisher mug and said, "You look great. You could run the 50K." And I felt terrible. I felt, I had cramp from mile 9 all the way to the end. And I finished strong, granted that, but it was the hardest thing I had done. And so that kind of set that spark off that, maybe I am capable of going longer distances. And then that following spring in 2019, I entered the Superior Spring 50K lottery. Had never run further than a half marathon before, and I got picked. So I had 4.5 months to train to run 31 miles, and I had only run 13 at that point. And from that point on, I was hooked. It was the training, the building to that race and getting there. That was the hook set. So
yeah, you kind of get that, you get that hook in you, and that's it. Doesn't matter if you're 30 something or 50 something. I think it's kind of that way for all of us. Very cool. So I guess that, full disclosure, I'm back of the pack, and we're all kind of, I guess, back of the pack, but Erik and Mario are a little faster than me, and probably all those sports as a youth, instead of being on the frickin' debate team and the physics team, is probably why you guys are faster than me. I never did any sports, but
I was on jazz band and honor choir as well. I had my nerdy side too.
We got to hear about this, Erik. What instrument did you play in jazz band?
I was second trumpet in jazz band.
Second trumpet,
nice.
Dude.
Yeah,
nice. And you were in choir too, huh?
Yep.
All right. Next time I record, some music, I'll have you do some background vocals. Mario, anything growing up besides the sports that you did? Any band or chess club? Or
I was in band all the way through high school. I think I stopped my senior year because I chose to do a second gym class instead of band. And then in
what instrument, Mario? We got to know what you played in band.
I played the tenor saxophone. So the one that had the curvy neck on it.
Yeah.
It was the back row, so I could.
Yeah,
I
you're
didn't have to play
everybody
as much.
in my band in high school that played saxophone, they were all super studs, all the guys, yeah. Us trumpet players, we were a mixed bag. We had some nerds in there like me, but saxophone, yeah, you had to be a stud to do that.
And then I was always on National Honor Society in high school. But I have a degree in college in geology, environmental geology, and a minor in hydrology. So I became a nerd after high school. I proudly joined the nerd club.
Yeah. You're a city engineer now, right?
I work in the engineering department at my local
right.
town. So,
Erik, you are in, I forget, what is your professional career? I know you're not a professional trail runner yet.
Yeah.
But, that's the goal. But you have a day job besides just running on trails and doing 50Ks, right?
Yeah, I work in contracts for an underground communications company, so I manage our leases, I do our bidding, and I'm kind of our Excel math nerd on our bid process.
Got it. So we all kind of ended up in careers that are a little bit nerdy, at least. Well, actually, I moved here to be an actor. I've done everything, managed restaurants, and now I'm in the corporate world doing facilities, management of facilities and stuff like that. But okay, so very nice. We all three have a band background. That's awesome. That's good. You got to be balanced. So tell the story of how you guys met. Erik, how did you meet Mario? When did you guys first meet?
Mario has a younger brother, Ryan, that I actually grew up playing hockey with. The way in Minnesota hockey, when you're playing, you play 2 years at each level. So you'll play 2 years of Pee-wees, 2 years of Bantams. So when I would be in my second year, Mario's brother would be in his first year of whatever our age group was. So I knew Ryan Frucci, Mario's brother, actually quite a bit better than Mario until finally in high school, sophomore through seniors played together at the varsity level. And Mario was 2 years older than me, so we overlapped finally for a year. I was splitting time JV varsity, so we didn't know each other that well, but at least kind of knew each other. And then What, you must have been doing the Endless Summer Running Series.
Yeah,
And
I
we
was
met up
registered for
out
one of
at
those.
Highland Hills, or
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it
yeah,
was
and so we
Highland.
went out on a Saturday and kind of had caught each other over Instagram and reconnected through running, kind of as Mario was doing that series as a scouting run.
Because you guys live fairly close to each other. I'm in the Twin Cities. You guys are a little bit outside of the Twin Cities, but you're fairly decently close to each other, right? In terms
Yeah,
of where
it's
you live.
about 10 minutes, 15 minutes from one another.
Okay.
And we have some great local trails that we hit pretty often together, and so that helps that we have kind of a local place that we like to go. It's not every weekend, but as often as we can, trying to meet up. Life gets
What's
busy.
that great park you guys took me to up by you guys? What's the name of that one, Mario?
Lake Maria State Park.
We did, yeah, nice little. If you go to my YouTube channel, there's a video. You can see the three of us because we're recording this with video, but you're probably only going to hear audio here for a while till I have time to create some videos of these podcasts too. But Lake Maria State Park, yeah, that's beautiful. It's like a 5.5 mile loop around the lakes and forest up there.
Yeah. You kind of head north up over. We call it Anderson Hill. It's the biggest hill in that area in that state park. You hit most of your elevation climb in the first 2/3 of it, and the last third is pretty rolly hills. But it's a really pretty park. A lot of maple forests and rolling hills that constantly challenge you.
You guys, I was going to ask you a little bit, and we can go as far or as little as we want to on this. You guys both have spouses and a young child. I mean, you've got this hobby going, you like to trail run. We all know when you're training for these races, there's a lot of times either running on trails. If you go to trails, you got to get stuff together, go to the trail. It takes a while. How was that affected by having kids? Erik, start with you. How was that? Did it change at all once you had a kid in terms of time you could dedicate to doing your trail run training outside?
Yes and no. It's actually gotten harder, I think, as he's gotten a little bit older. But I've had a treadmill like for years now. That's a cheat code. If baby's sleeping, go run some miles. Do that a couple times a day, and it all stacks up. The other thing is my kids liked being in the jogging stroller since he was young. So there'd be times where it'd be like, okay, let's give mom a break. She's been nursing all day or doing laundry and whatever. And so I could load him in the jogging stroller and take him out and give mom a little reprieve there. But now as he gets older, Mario and I've talked about it a little bit, but you get a little bit more dad guilt of like, oh, I have to go do a 5-hour training run. And by the time I drive to a trail that I want to drive, or like I actually want to run, it's an hour run, hour home. And it's just like, okay, now my Saturday's gone or my Sunday's gone. So I try to train kind of around my house. I run a lot of roads, probably more than I should for trail running, but
Yeah. How about you, Mario? Having your little guy, did that change your routines or you just made it work somehow or?
Yeah, well, so my son was born kind of peak pandemic, peak COVID. So we really couldn't go do anything. He was a preemie and kind of at risk for some unknown stuff, and just not only COVID, but RSV, flu, pneumonia, all that stuff that babies shouldn't get. So actually, there was a lot of times that I would just go run for an hour while he was sleeping, and I've kind of just carried that through. So now he's 4, and so when he goes down for a nap or when he goes to bed at whatever time, I'll head out late, or I'll try to get it in early before he's up in the morning. Because as Erik was saying, the dad guilt. My son's 4.5 now. He's at school and learning all kinds of things, and he knows when dad's gone and how long dad's been gone for, and I want to be there as a parent. On my Instagram profile, on my Instagram, I'm a husband, a father, and a runner. So in that order. So my family is my absolute number one priority, and I run every chance I can outside of disrupting the family cycle. So because my son was born during the pandemic, we had a lot more free time, and so I actually kind of ramped up my running quite a bit after my son was born, and now it's just kind of part of our routine. I'll put my hat on, and my son asks, "Dad, you going out for a run?" And so, yeah, it's become part of the routine at this point.
Yeah, that's great. How about either of your do either of you guys' spouses run? Are they into this or are they heck no.
Not
My
even a little.
wife's incredibly supportive, but she thinks I need to be institutionalized.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah, our wives get along pretty great. Yeah,
They get
neither of
along?
our wives. Yeah, they do. They were at our most recent 50K together. Our last race
Wild
together was
Duluth
the
last
Wild Duluth
fall?
50K, and we can talk about that in this
Okay.
podcast or another one. But
Yeah, we can do it.
we spent a
Absolutely.
lot of time out on the trails, and so they got some quality time together at aid stations waiting for us to come through.
So you guys both did the Wild Duluth 50K last fall together, right?
Yeah,
Mario, that was your second time doing it.
correct.
Erik, that was Erik's. That was your first 50K. We I don't know how we want to phrase that, but we popped the cherry on your 50K last
Yep,
fall, right?
correct. Yeah.
Why not? Let's talk about it a little bit. So you guys start together. First, tell me a little bit about that race. I know we didn't prepare for this, but that's fine. This is all good. We're just making stuff. We're making stuff up as we go here. But what do you guys remember that race? The course. It's up by Duluth. Is it an out and back the 50K or is it just one direction?
No, so you start at Jay Cook State Park at Oldenburg Point, and then you run down into Canal Park in Duluth.
Okay,
The 100K starts at Canal Park,
that's
goes
an
to
out and back.
Oldenburg. Yep, correct.
Okay, so and who puts that race series on?
Adventure Running, I believe is the
Okay.
name.
Yep,
Okay,
yeah, they're out of
what,
Duluth.
do they do other races? Go ahead, Mario.
They do. They do a winter. They actually just this past weekend had their Frozen 4 hour. They do a Frozen 4 hour, and I think a 5K race as well. And then so they run that Wild Duluth series, and then they have a couple of other. I can't think of the other races offhand right now, but I do know that they do run tours and stuff all over the world as part of their other part of their business.
Okay.
So
So that's a 50K, 31 miles, I'm assuming. Erik, you say it starts at Jay Cook and it goes down to Canal. I think, oh, it's downhill. It's not, you guys were talking about, there's some serious elevation gain in that one, right? I don't
Yeah,
have
it
the
was
stats in front of me. I've got your Black Canyon stats pulled up so we can have
okay.
that. But I wasn't thinking we would talk about this, but I'm glad we are. What you guys remember what the elevation changes or gains are on that course?
I had like 5,300 up and like 5,600 down. I think it's technically net downhill.
So it's downhill. It's downhill,
Yeah,
right? It
yeah,
was
super
breeze,
easy.
right, Eric?
Yeah,
Probably
yep,
6 hours or something like that for you, right?
yep, yeah. No, it honestly. So the reason, like I told you, I saw that post of that guy who finished Wild Duluth 100K and just looked like a madman coming out of the woods. So I've been obsessed with this race for many years. I've signed up, I think, one other time and just didn't commit to the training and didn't show up at the start line even. And so this was the year that I kind of went all in on it. And Mario and I went up in June to practice Jay Cook to Ely's Peak. Ely's Peak is this big climb. Ely Peak's kind of like the crux climb of the race, I would say. It's over rock. You're not on trail, really. Like, you're scrambling rock, kind of.
Okay.
Not like loose scree or anything. I mean, it's solid rock, but you're kind of scrambling up it. It's like probably 500 feet of gain in half a mile.
What? In a
Yeah.
half a mile?
Yeah, you get
Oh my
out of the
God.
aid station, you run on like a paved trail for probably a quarter mile, half mile, and by
That's
the time
serious for Minnesota. That's a lot, guys.
by the time you get to a mile 11, you're 600, 700 feet above the aid station, and like you can still see down to the aid station.
Wow.
So, we went out to do that run. Oldenburg Point, where the race starts, was not open, so we started from
Okay.
Jay Cook Park headquarters, and I was not ready. We miscalculated the distance. We thought it would add like a quarter mile. It added almost 2 to 3 miles on from where we started to Ely's Peak. We never made it to Ely's Peak. We death marched probably the last 10 miles. We ended up being like a 21-mile training run, but we were just
What?
walking on the road. I was not ready. Mario was fine, but
Were you guys' spouses and kids with, or was it just the two of you up there?
it was just the two of us. But my spouse was with my in-laws, waiting for me in a different part of northern Minnesota. We were supposed to be on a 4-wheeling trip, and I was
Oh, God.
postponing it a day to go do this run. So the whole time we're death marching, I'm like, oh man, I still have to drive 3 hours over to Spider Lake, and I'm way behind schedule and whatever.
Oh my God, Mario, how was it for you? Was it the same experience for you, that training run?
Yes and no. Yes, because so I've run that section before. I did Wild Duluth in 2021. I had this wild idea after watching Rob Steger's The Triple Crown
No pun intended,
on
Mario. This
Amazon.
wild idea after Wild Duluth.
Correct.
I
Yeah,
caught
it
that.
very fitting. But he did his first 200 miler in that series solo and unsupported. And I had never done a race of that distance solo and unsupported. And so I challenged myself to drive up the night before. I slept at a friend's house, and then one of my other friends was doing the 100K that morning. So I got up early and watched him start the 100K, and then went back to sleep in the car and did that race and drove home. So that experience overall was far different than the one I had this time. It was more meaningful this time for a number of reasons, and we can get
The
into
race
that.
this time.
The race was,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I was
You wanna
I
talk
was
about the race a little
so
bit?
I was so fueled by those external factors that it was extremely hard. It was extremely difficult, but I kind of knew what I was working towards. I ended up carrying a bib of a runner who couldn't start that race. That wasn't at that time when we did that training run. That wasn't a piece of the puzzle, but
Mario, and I know you've told this story. Talk about, I think his name is Ricky, right? That
it
bib that you
was.
were carrying for the 50K when you and Erik ran it?
Yeah, so Ricky Codenbeetle, he's a local runner, Monticello High School graduate. He passed away early September of cardiorhythmic. I should have written it down. He had a heart underlying heart disease that took his life. He was young. He was 28. He was registered to run this race, and we go back a long time. Kids in the neighborhood. He had lived in the neighborhood over, so we knew each other as kids, but never had a chance to reconnect as adults. And I was looking forward to this race as being that opportunity. And when I learned of his passing, I know the family, and so I reached out and asked if I could carry his bib because he was registered for the race. And so I made sure when I checked in at each aid station, I told them that I had Ricky's bib with me at each aid station to make sure that he finished the race. So Ricky has a finishing time for the Wild Duluth 50K. Much slower than Ricky would have done. Ricky's an incredible athlete. Ran much faster than I could ever. And so it was just an honor to be able to do something and have that race mean so much more. And I think with all of these trail running events, I think the reason why we get into them is to learn how to persevere through hard things. Because life will give you hard lessons, whether you're willing to learn them or wanting to learn them or not. So, putting yourself through this adversity through trail running, it has a bigger meaning. So, it was a real honor that I was able to get him through to the finish on that one.
Yeah, thanks. I get, as you guys will learn, I'm an easy crier. I get very emotional, and just hearing you tell that again, it's the second time I've heard it. I get choked up. That is really amazing you did that. Was his family there, or did you reach out to him afterwards? I mean, they knew you were doing it. They weren't at the race, were they?
They were there. They were with me at the start, and they saw me, come through the finish line. I came through the arches with my son, holding my hand. He helped me run through the arches at the end there. And Ricky's family was there, and my family was there, and it was really a magical moment. And at the start of the race, they held a moment of silence for Ricky. I talked to the race director, Andy. He's an incredible. Andy and Kim are incredible people, and wanted to make sure that his family felt the love, and they absolutely did. I mean, we made sure that Ricky's presence was felt, and that it's his legacy lives on. So
Yeah. I bet there was his family was pretty moved, and there was probably some tears at the end there when he finished.
Oh yeah. From all of us, me and myself included. I actually kind of collapsed and just broke down for 5 seconds and got myself together to hug my wife and son, and my parents were there as well, which is pretty cool.
I'm a crier. I'd probably still be freaking crying. I still be up in Duluth at the finish line. So the race, Mario, we had a pretty good day. And I don't want to spend this whole podcast talking about. We got to hear about Erik's Black Canyon race. But Erik, you guys had started together. You didn't finish together though. Erik, you were a little bit behind Mario. How was you? We don't have to do 20 minutes of this, but how was your day that day? Your race day.
The first 15 miles were like a dream. Mario ran with me to Ely's Peak in the race, helped me get through that part, and then probably another mile or so after, I'd say, we kind of hung out. And he was feeling good, and he's like, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. And I was like, yeah, go for it. He's faster than me. He says he's a middle of the packer. He's like a back front, middle lead kind of guy. Yeah. He's fast,
thanks,
so
man.
Don't let him undersell himself. But so he took off, and then I got to mile 15, and my right knee just gave up the ghost. Every step I took, it was like a shooting pain, whether it was up or down. So I just ran the flats, and I hiked the rest of the day, and got in about 9 hours and 45 minutes. It's like 19-minute a mile pace. But I picked Wild Duluth because 50Ks are scary to me. I know to some people it's nothing, but they still scare me. I mean, I've done 2 of them now, and I haven't nailed it yet. They've all scared me. So I picked one with generous cutoffs. I was never in like jeopardy of missing or anything, but it was tough, but learned a lot, and that's why I say I'm stubborn. Like I never thought about quitting. My wife came out and crewed me, and she's like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "Good," and I would just eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, give her a kiss, and head out. And she's like, "You just never, like whatever, like," because I got finally finished. I'm not a crier. I finally finished, and we got in her car, and I just, like, broke down. I was like, my body hurts in a way that it's never hurt before.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you never acted like you're going to quit. And I was like, because I couldn't. If I, like, even mentioned it, I probably would have. It sucked so bad, but got it done.
Because Mario would have done nothing but made fun of you if you would have quit, right?
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
He could
Mario,
hear me in
you
his
had a
ear.
pretty, Mario, you obviously you had other reasons for doing that race, but overall you had a pretty good day, right? It was a faster time than your previous?
So my previous 50K at Wild Duluth was my peak 50K. I had trained really hard for that one in 2021.
Got it.
I came in really ready, and I just took off. I finished that one, I think, in 6:17 or 6:18. So a really good pace. This last one I finished in just under 8 hours.
So for a lot of our listeners are going to know what those paces mean and stuff like that. But just so you know, that's super fast, guys. 6 hours to go 30 miles. That's super fast. I know the professional runners will do it in 4 hours or whatever, but for us ordinary people, that's super fast. I've done 150K, and I wanted to get like 7 hours, and I was 8 hours and 20 minutes. And that was perfectly flat. That was not nearly as hard as Wild Duluth. But so I want to, Erik, I don't know if you and Mario have chatted about it. I certainly haven't heard all the details. I know you were texting the heck out of us for 2 days, or at least the day of the 100K. So Erik 2 weeks ago was in Arizona, and was part of the Black Canyon experience. The center of the trail running universe was focused on Erik. Well, maybe not Erik specifically, but the Black Canyon races. So Erik, tell us about the trip. Like, what appealed to you about it?
The pros that were going to be there, to be honest. I've just we don't get a lot of that in Minnesota. Like, occasionally a 1 or 2 pros sneak out to like Wild Duluth, but they're kind of upcoming pros. Not Jim Walmsley's not coming out to do Wild Duluth.
Well, he might now that you and him are buddies.
Well, yeah. No, him and I are going to run it this fall now.
You'll come run at Maria State Park with the 3 of us.
Yeah. No, and I love the Arizona desert. It's an easy not easy, but like it's a nice way to get a race in February when you're living in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And just, I'm obsessed with Cocodona 250. I'm obsessed with running, like everything, as you can tell. But I'm obsessed with Cocodona 250, and this kind of follows some of those like small western towns that Cocodona runs through. So that all appealed to me, and the whole thing is, it's the fastest 50K and net downhill, and that turned out to not be that true for me, but
just like Wild Duluth, or it's downhill.
Yeah.
It's net downhill.
What they forget to mention is to go downhill, you have to climb uphill.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I love Arizona, and so
Okay.
I kind of signed up for it.
Have you've been to Arizona previously, just on vacation, or did you ever live there? Or?
No, my wife and I have been going there since probably 2019. We'll go there for like a week almost every year. Not really on purpose, it just kind of organically happens. And in 2019, her and I actually ran the McDowell Mountain Frenzy races. So I did the McDowell Mountain 10-miler, and she did the McDowell Mountain 5-miler. And that's another Air Viper race.
So she does run a little bit.
She's naturally talented at running. Like, she can practice for a week and run a 5-minute mile, or like a 5-minute race, or a 5-mile race at like 8-minute pace. Like, she's good. She has long legs. Yeah. Yeah, it's super discouraging because she'll like take up running for like a week and come run with me, and I'm huffing and puffing and she's prancing along. I'm like, oh, I do this for hours every week. This is embarrassing.
When I first met my wife, she doesn't run anymore, but she was still running when I first met her. And I remember her being like, out running with somebody, and she's like, oh, they were so slow. It was like a 9-minute a mile pace. She was like, I might as well have been walking. And now, I'm like, 9-minute mile pace. My God, I must be downhill, like, rolling down a 45-degree grade to be doing that. Christ almighty. So you sign up for the race, you head out there. Did you get out there a day or two before, or just the day before? When did you get out there?
Yeah, so my race was Sunday, the 100K, which is it's a golden ticket race. The golden ticket's an elite racing series to get into the Western States 100, which is the premier 100-miler in the United States right now. So it brings a lot of names out. So I flew out Friday. I flew Friday morning from Minneapolis down to Phoenix, and then took an Uber out to Black Canyon. Okay.
Now, is it you or just you with your wife and kid, or just you?
Just me.
Okay.
So keep in mind, I'm obsessed with running. So I watch as much running content as I can. I listen to as much running content as I can. To me, the world is going to converge on Black Canyon City this weekend, right? Only in my head. So I got an Uber out there, got checked into this I slept in like a 12 by 12 cabin at a KOA campground. Black Canyon City has no hotels. They have one motel called the Breezy Motel that, if I had to guess, a lot of drugs are dealt there.
Oh my God.
So I'm at this campground, whatever. And then packet pickup and the pro panel are Friday night at this little bar called, I believe, Chalene's on 17th. And so I was able to get a Uber to Chalene's. So I go to Chalene's, I get my race packet, which was, they gave you like a dry bag that would basically fit a phone, your bib, and then Goreware had these really cool race shirts. And that's what you got. And then I had a burger there and listened to some of the pro panels. Got to see, Dylan Bowman, all the pro runners, Brett Hornig from Conversational Pace Single Track Pod, Jeff Garmeyer, noted through hiker and ultra runner, like Jamil Curry. If anyone followed along with the Chipotle Strava thing, Sean Hayworth, who was a photographer for Kevin Russ, also does media for Air Vipa. He was there, just awesome.
Was
really,
it
really
Kevin?
Cool.
Kevin, the other guy running against Jamil for the burritos, was that Kevin, or who
that
was
was
the
Kevin.
guy? He was okay.
Yeah, so Sean was Kevin's friend and kind of did media for Kevin.
And for those of you who are maybe like, what are they talking about? We won't go into the details, but basically Chipotle came out with this thing that whoever ran the most Strava segments, of the route by Chipotle, would get free burritos. Was it for a year?
Yeah, 52 free entrees is basically what it ends up being.
And Jamil and Kevin Russ are going back and forth at this little Chipotle route in Tempe, where they live, and they were running 70-mile days and 100-mile days. Like, this is nuts. That's crazy. Anyways, back to your story. That's enough about those guys. So you're out there Friday night.
Yep, I get to everybody see the pros. Got my race packet. I call an Uber, but I need to go to a grocery store. It's dawned on me that there's nowhere to eat in this town. My cabin doesn't have running water, so if I'm going to be hydrated, I need to go buy a case of water.
Wait, no running water?
No, it has shared bathrooms.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was janky. Black Canyon City is not like a destination spot.
Wow.
Again, didn't know that because I thought
Sure.
this is what the world is going to revolve around.
Center of the running world. It's got to have, civilization, right?
Yeah, it turns out everyone either just goes to Flagstaff, Prescott, or Phoenix, and then, rents cars. I didn't know that, so whatever. So I take an Uber to this grocery store called Ron's Market. Well, on my way there, I'm talking to the Uber driver, and I was like, hey, can you just wait while I go grab, literally bread and water, and then I'll come back out, and you just bring me to my campsite. You can update the ride. I'll pay the extra fare or whatever. Doesn't speak English, which I took college Spanish. I have a little bit of Spanish.
Okay.
Un poco español. And so I'm trying to communicate with this guy.
Oh, no.
And he goes, dos stops. And I was like, yep. So I think we're on the same page. I leave my stuff in the Uber.
Uh-oh.
I go inside. I come back out. The Uber's gone.
Oh, my God.
So I'm like, oh, my gosh. I'm in Arizona. That's my race bib. I got to get something figured out. So I start trying to contact Uber to get in touch with him. I contact Jubilee, who's the race director for Aravaipa, and whatever. I'm like, oh, whatever. Now, immediate concern is getting back to my campsite. I can't get an Uber anymore. That's the last time I could get an Uber the whole weekend without scheduling it a day in advance.
You're kidding. How far away from your campsite are you and the shared bathrooms?
2 miles, mile and a half, 2 miles, but I have a case of water and bread. So I'm not trying to
Shakeout run. Shakeout run with groceries.
Luckily, this lovely townie named Edie picked me up in her 1980s Cadillac and gave me a ride to the campsite.
So you hitchhiked.
Oh,
literally hitchhiked a ride.
I hitchhiked multiple times this weekend.
Oh, God.
This story's insane. The race is the least interesting part about my weekend.
Well, yeah, good.
Okay, so I get home. I'm like, obviously, I need to start pre-booking these Ubers, and so I wanted to go to the 100K the next day. And the 50K aid station and the 100K is at Deep Canyon Ranch, which is in Black Canyon City. So I book an Uber to go there. It's only 2.5 miles, but that's 5 miles round trip the day before I do a 50K. So my plan was I Ubered there and I ran back. So I do that, went and watched the pro race. Just phenomenal day. I'm sitting there. I got there a little too early, and I look over and Jim Walmsley's just standing in the middle of the Deep Canyon Ranch parking lot by himself. So
there was not a crowd of people around him, just him? And
I was one of the first people to notice him. So I went over and was like, Jim, can I get a picture? And I'm kind of talking to him, and then a crowd starts to form.
Okay.
And Jim Walmsley would sit there.
Time out, Eric. Okay, we got to hear a little bit more. You freaking met Jim Walmsley. Christ.
Yeah.
So you just go over to him, and I assume I saw the photo. I assume he was a nice enough guy to say, yeah, photo. Was he pretty cool about it?
Joey, he would still be talking to me today if
God.
I didn't end the conversation because the crowd was getting so large that I was I'm going to let some other people get a chance to talk to you or whatever.
What were you guys talking about?
I just asked him what his plans are for the year, how he's feeling, is he gearing up for Western States, and then he asked me if I was here to just crew someone or run, and we kind of talked about that. He said I'd have a fun day tomorrow and whatever.
Did he offer to pace you?
No, he didn't.
Oh, that's right. They don't have pacers. They don't have pacers on the 50K. I'm sorry, I forgot.
I probably would have dropped him anyway. He was afraid. I could tell.
He doesn't want a training injury. Come on.
No, but phenomenal human being. He would give you as much time of the day as you wanted. It was incredible.
And for anybody listening who's not a trail runner, I think it's part of the reason we do this. And my wife, she used to run marathons. She was what I call competitive. She would say, no, I wasn't competitive. She was a competitive marathoner. And she doesn't understand. I'm like, when you run trails, everybody is friendly. Everybody is the nicest persons you could ever meet. We're all out there struggling, whether you're front of the pack, back of the pack. Everybody wants to help you. That's what I just absolutely love about it. So hearing that about Jim just gives me hope. It makes me think trail running will save the world, guys. So you're talking to Jim Walmsley, and then you met some other people too while you're watching the pros come through, right? Because I saw your other photos.
Yeah, and just to put it into perspective for people who aren't trail runners, Jim Walmsley is like our current day LeBron James. Like
I
you
was,
can
I was
have
going to say Michael Jordan.
That's
Date
accurate.
myself
well,
a
you
little
can
bit.
have debates that like Jurek
Yeah.
might be Jordan or Carl Metzger might be Jordan. There's that cross generational thing,
Got it.
but in today's day and age, like for Mario and I, he's the GOAT kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
First American male to win UTMB, which is this huge European race that no American had won, and no American male had won. Many women have, but he was the first American male. 4-time Western States winner and current course record holder.
Soon
just
to be
stud.
5.
Yeah, I don't know. David Roach is looking good if you're watching his video series.
He's insane. We'll talk. Wow. Guys,
they're all insane.
we're gonna do a bunch of these series because I'm already like, oh, we got to talk about this and that and this and that. So we'll focus a little. So you're there, you're hanging
Jim.
out, talking to Jim. He's super nice. You met some other folks as well while you're hanging out. Obviously, you're seeing the pros come through.
Yep. So met Jim right away, and then a bunch of pros had other pros there to pace them. So like Matt Daniels was bopping around. Peter Mortimer of Air Viper Racing was there, if you're familiar with him, ultra athlete. Wolf Runner, I forget his real name, Brian something. He's doing he's a podcast guy with Borderlands Trail.
Okay.
Does Wolfie's Takes, really good. Or Wolfie's World. He was pacing and crewing the Norda Pro Athlete Elliott.
Okay.
Yeah, just studs. And then
Crazy.
The pros coming through. I mean, Eli, Seth, Heather Jackson.
I wrote that in my notes. I'm like, and I know you were texting us, and the three of us were kind of texting back and forth. So you were pretty close right there because I saw your photos. You got to see them come through. I've never seen a professional trail runner or person. What were they? This was at the 50K
This is 50K,
point?
Yep.
And so you saw Seth, and who was lead? Was it Eli leading at that point still?
Was leading. Yeah, I think I sent you guys a video, and Eli it comes out, and then shortly after Seth comes out.
What do they look inhuman? I imagine they just look inhuman on the way they come through, right?
They're running like 6:30s, chatting. They're chatting.
Chatting?
That's where they got to pick up their pacers, and they're literally like chatting. And I think Eli was running like 6:30, 7-minute mile, and Seth kind of same thing. And it's insane. They were, by 50K, you could tell they were working. Like they were all drenched in water, and you could tell that they were whatever. But like, stark contrast to how I looked in Deep Canyon Ranch about 24 hours later.
Oh my God. It's so crazy. I mean, people think, like people that I know that don't run at all or anything, and I tell them, oh, I do these 20-mile races, or I'm going to try to do 30. They think we're insane. This is inhuman level what these people can do. I am just in awe. That's so cool. So, and you got to see Tara Dower.
Yep.
Riley Brady, and because Tara was pretty much in second all day long.
Yeah.
People that don't know Tara Dower, she recently set the FKT fastest known time on the Appalachian Trail, and that's for men, women. She demolished the record. So she's this, super talented thru hiker, and set the record. And now she's like, I guess I'm going to do 50Ks or 100Ks, or now she's going to Western States now. But you got to see her come through. Was she moving pretty good?
Yeah, they were all moving really well. I mean,
awesome.
The other thing about Tara Dower, so I think she set that in September. She set that ATFKT. Okay, with the exception of Riley Brady, Tara Dower would now have the Black Canyons course record. That got lost in it. Riley Brady went 30 minutes under or something. Tara Dower went 20 minutes over under the Black Canyon course record 4 months after the AT.
Wow. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Unreal. So you're a little bit starstruck, having fun.
Yeah.
How long did you stay there, Eric, at the checkpoint there?
I stayed till basically like I need to run home before it gets dark. So I was there till like 4 probably. Part of that was self-interested in trying to secure a bib. The 50K check-in was that day too. So I was trying to secure a bib.
Getting a new bib?
Yeah. All the extra bibs were at the high school at the start line, though. But I did that was the second time I got confirmation that I'd be able to get a new bib Sunday, so I was able to, rest easy, I guess, the night before.
So they told you could get a bib the morning of?
Yep. Yeah,
So,
Friday I'd gotten confirmation of that, so.
All right, so you're there watching at the 50K, all the superstars come through, and then everybody else after that, and then you take an Uber home back to the campgrounds.
No, I ran back.
Okay, good,
Yep.
good. You ran back home. Did you get some rest? How much rest did you get before? Were you like I have a hard time sleeping the night before a race. I mean, I'm sure you guys get anxious too, but
I usually do too, but I was out in the sun all day, which I think plays a factor in my Sunday. I was out in the sun all day, so I was pretty beat.
Yeah.
And so I actually was able to get some good sleep, except for the campground next to me had a dog that was perfectly silent all the rest of the weekend, except for Saturday night when I'm trying to go to bed.
Wow.
So I think I ended up getting 6 hours of sleep, which the day before a race is pretty.
That's pretty
You'll
good.
take it, right? Yeah.
You'll take it, yeah.
So I had scheduled an Uber. So I
take to the start.
Yep. So I take my Uber from the campground to Deep Canyon Ranch, and then
I just want to explain to people. So you're at Black Canyon. That's where the 50K ends.
Correct.
You actually start where the 100K starts. So what's that town?
Mayor, Arizona.
Okay.
But they bussed us from Black Canyon City up to Mayor.
Okay.
So I just took my Uber, the 2.5 miles or whatever, to Deep Canyon Ranch.
To get to the bus?
Yep.
Got it.
So get on the bus, get up there. That's all fine. Sat next to a guy from Phoenix, really nice guy. Chatted with him. Get to the high school, get off the bus, and I go to bib pickup. And everyone in Air Viper Racing has been awesome to work with. Tell this guy. I go, hey, I talked to Jubilee. I'm looking for Tori or Aaron. I need to get a replacement bib. And he goes, oh, they're not here today. They're not. They're at the finish line or something. And I was like, oh, okay, well, could you help me then? I have this text. I just need to get a different bib. He's like, I don't have any extra bibs. And I was like, well, I've been told twice now that the extra bibs are here. I just need a bib so I can race. Yeah, just go stand over there, and then when I have time, I'll help you. So I go stand where he tells me to. Now I'm kind of getting nervous, but I look under the table, and there's a clear box, a tackle box kind of looking thing that's see-through. I can see extra 100K and 50K bibs. So I point at it, I'm like, there's extra bibs under your table. And he's like, no, those are 100K. Well, the 100K bibs are blue, 50K orange. And I was like, no, I can see orange bibs. And he opens it up. He's like, oh, yeah, I guess. So he scribbles my name on my bib and tells me.
Are you worried at this point? Am I even going to get credit? Am I going to get tracked correctly? I would be I'm going to do all of this, and then I'm going to go out to ultrasign if it's going to be did not start.
Yeah, I don't care about ultrasign up so much, but
I know.
I was just if I came all the way to Arizona and I have to bandit this race, I'm going to be kind of mad.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I already lost my race shirt. Luckily I'd bought a Satisfy shirt. Otherwise I wouldn't have a Black Canyons race shirt.
Oh my God, that's right. Because that was in the Uber too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah. So whatever, I get the bib thing solved, and then line up, and you start at the Mayor High School track. It's really janky.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a dirt track. It's a 3/4 it's less than a quarter-mile loop around their track too. It's very weird. So
why did they do the loop just to get to the right distance? Or
I guess I don't know.
I don't know. It's kind of like Western states, only in reverse. You start on the track and So you start out, and then the first ping you get from the first aid station, it shows you running 9-minute miles. Mario, what did you think when you I don't know if you were tracking Mario like I was, but I was when you saw that, were you like Mario? Were you like I was? I was like, holy shit, he's flying.
So I happened to come home from a run that morning, and I turned on the live stream of the 50K race because I wanted to see who was going to be lining up at the front. And we all kind of know our major running kind of. They're not really famous, but they're famous to us, right? And so we know who they all are. And in the background, I see Erik. And so I texted him you're on the live stream right now. And he wasn't on for a couple of seconds, but then I watched him through that first aid station, and I was updating my wife that whole morning, I'm like, he is flying. He's doing really good. He's feeling really good today. And then I was, they give you the estimated time of arrival, and was that at mile 20, Eric? Would that have been the third aid
So
station?
the first aid station,
Bumblebee's the third aid station.
Yeah.
Antelope Mesa aid is the first aid. I've got the map up here, guys. I'm
Perfect.
trying to be prepared to do this stuff. It says mile 7.7, and that's the one where I forget how long it said you did that, but it was like basically you were running 9-minute miles for
like an hour and 20 minutes.
miles, and I thought, oh damn, Erik's feeling his oats today. Holy crap.
So that's what's weird is I don't know if like they hadn't updated that bib yet, so that bib thought I was taking off in wave 2. Because like my watch, I was my first mile went out like hotter than I wanted to, but I was still high 11s. And then it was like 12, 12, 12, 12. Basically for 12 miles, I was like 12-minute miles.
Mm-hmm.
And then about a mile out from Hidden Treasure, which is the second aid station at like mile 12 something, I called my wife just to like check. She'd asked me to call her a couple times, so I called her and just let her know and kind of walked into Hidden Treasure. Got to Hidden Treasure and could tell like I'm hot. Like it's not hot out, but I'm hot. And so
what was the actual temperature? And I know, we're sitting here, it's like probably 10 degrees in Minnesota today, but what was the temperature that day?
It was 70 degrees, but like grand scheme of things, 70s not horrible. Low 70s, like high 60s, low 70s.
There's no trees, right? It's all
not
exposed,
an ounce of
exposed.
Shade. Yeah, that's what got to me. I just wasn't prepared for that. But so I get to Hidden Treasure and I'm like, oh, I'm hot. So I got there. I took some salt pills to make sure I had sodium. Filled up all my water bottles. Kind of dunked my head. Oh, I'd forgot my squirrel's nut butter, like my anti-chafe, in Minnesota. Luckily, Squirrel's Nut Butter sponsors this race, so every aid station, except for Antelope Mesa, had Squirrel's Nut Butter, so I took some time at Hidden Treasure to put on some Squirrel's Nut Butter.
Nice.
Shout out to Squirrel's Nut Butter.
Thanks to our sponsor, Squirrel's Nut Butter. Maybe they'll sponsor us someday, guys. Who knows?
Mario's already sponsored by him. He's on the Squirrel's Nut Butter Adventure team.
I did get accepted on the Squirrel's Nut Butter Adventure team for 2025. So that's pretty cool.
Well,
that's
at the end of this, we'll
that's
talk
a high
our
watermark for
sponsorships.
sure.
But so you're throwing on some anti-chafe. You're heading out. This is at mile 13, 12, something, right?
Mile 12 and a half or something. So I leave Hidden Treasure. I feel like I've got it under control. I think I'm good. I get, 13 and a half, mile 14. And it, like, everything just, the wheels came off. And so then the motto just became kind of get to Bumblebee. Like, just do what it takes to get to Bumblebee.
When you say the wheels came off, was it heat, exhaustion, cramps, stomach? Talk a little bit more about what wheels came off at that point.
I couldn't keep my heart rate where I wanted it. I try to run a lot by like feel and heart rate.
Yep.
And it was just like if I was running 12-minute pace, I was in like the 160s, 170s, and I just knew that wasn't sustainable.
Okay.
So, and my mouth was so dry, so I knew I needed to just like take the time and get some kind of like I carried two big Solomon bottles with me in my vest, and then I had
each
a third
like a half liter or something, like 500 milliliters or something.
Yeah, I think they're 750s.
Oh, okay.
So two 750s, a third 750, and then I have a 22-ounce Death March Running Company soft flask. So I had two things of like electrolyte mix, and then two that were water. So the 4.5 or 6.5 miles to Bumblebee, I drank all of that, and still was still like super dry.
Oh my god!
Didn't need to go to the bathroom at all. Like I was dehydrated.
Hey, Mario, have you ever done that? And I talked about it in my first podcast when I did the Backcountry Rise 20-mile race last year or 2 years ago. There was one point that's really long downhill section, but it was so hard. I was struggling, and it was warm, and it was exposed. And I was running with two guys, and they both ended up dropping at the aid station. But they were like, literally, I thought these guys are going to frickin' drop. And I had 4 flasks on me, and I gave one guy a flask because he had nothing. He was out. He's like, I'm out. I'm like, just take it. So I had a half a flask, and I had to go 3 miles with the photographer, James Holk, and I never recovered. I drank like a ton at that aid station, and then I just death marched from there. And my fingers were cramped. Everything was cramping all the way through my fingers. Yeah, Mario, you've ever dehydrated that bad in a race before?
Not in a race. So in 2023, I took 2023 off of racing entirely. I think I did the Riverfest 5K, the local 5K in town here. I think that was the only actual sanctioned race that I did in 2023. But in the fall, my friend Ian Ackman and my friend Ian's the one who got me into running. He's the one I did that first trail half marathon with. He's much more built like a runner than I am. He's tall, long legs. And so we did a 40-mile section from the State Highway 1 trailhead to Tetagooch State Park. That was the plan. And I got really dehydrated and behind on my nutrition on that solo adventure. And we stopped and dropped water and gels in bags at different trailheads before the morning before. So it was supposed to be kind of a sun up to sundown type thing. And Ian actually had to run ahead of me and grab my truck and drive to the previous stop. And so I finished at like 34 miles, I think it was. But yeah, same thing, cramps in your toes, in your fingers, in my ribs. That was a weird one, having like the chest, like the muscles in my ribs from breathing. I'm not really sure what the pain was from, but that it was, just an all-on body cramp. It was really strange.
Yeah.
It was like a cramp from the inside out when you get that behind on your hydration.
Yeah, and it's so hard to recover. You can drink everything in the world. Once you get to that point, it just is hard to recover. So Erik, so you drank all your stuff.
Yeah.
And just to go how far? 4 miles or something? You just
No,
drank
I think it's like 6.5 to Bumblebee.
Okay, 6.5 miles. You go through everything you got, and are you cramping at this point?
No, I never cramped. I just had nothing in like the tank. Like
nothing in the tank.
Yeah.
What are you eating? Are you doing gels, or what are you doing for food all day?
I have BPN Go gels, so I'm doing those, and then I do BPN Go One More for it's electrolyte and carb mix.
Okay.
So I do that. And then gummy worms. I love gummy worms and gummy bears. So
I'm just getting into that, guys. We'll talk our favorite little gummy treats to that. So so what aid station are you coming into at this point? You're coming into
Bumblebee Ranch, which I was
Ranch.
Super excited for because Satisfy sponsors it. So there's live music. They're making you like made to order quesadillas. It's supposed to be like a party. I walk into Bumblebee and I just fall into a chair.
Party's over, guys.
I was like, I gotta get it together here. So like I took probably half an hour at Bumblebee, one to have a pity party, and two, I chugged 2 more 22-ounce flasks of water and then refilled all 4 of them.
Okay.
And I'm feeling pretty good. I ran out of Bumblebee. I was feeling pretty good. I'm like, okay, things are back on track. It's only 4.5 miles to Gloriana Mines, which is the last aid station. You leave Bumblebee, and it's a Wild Duluth-esque mile-long climb.
Wow.
So instantly everything's just right back off.
I'm pulling up the elevation. I've got in front of me. I'm looking at Bumblebee, and like the whole map it's pretty flat. There's a couple little, mostly downhill. It's net downhill, and then you do look at Bumblebee. It's like oh yeah, there it is.
It's like
there's the hill out of Bumblebee.
Straight up, and then it's like little rollers to Gloriana Mines. So I was just trying to hike the uphills and run the downhills and move on the flats if I could. But then now things are going so slow. I'm probably at like 5.5 hours when I get to Bumblebee. So my feet are starting to it feels, everyone talks about this like it's some buffed out single track. It's loose rock everywhere and chunks of rock. So the whole day you're sitting there going like this. I don't have a rock plate or anything in my shoe. I wear the Nike Zagama 2s currently. And so it's just, they're super foam. So those rocks are coming right through that, their Zoom X super foam right into the bottom of my foot. And so now my feet are starting to hurt. So even kind of running on the flats is not great. So I kind of just do what it takes to get to Gloriana Mines. And then take my time at Gloriana Mines again. Gloriana Mines is 9 miles of unaided running.
Yeah, it's a long. I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I texted you. I'm like, fill up all of your stuff because it's a long haul from there to the end.
So that was another one where I chugged like a flask of goo octane.
Yeah.
Because that's what the aid station had. Then filled up 2 more, chugged a thing of water, filled up my other 2 flasks, and then I left. That's the other thing. I've never done anything uncrewed, and there's no drop bags. So, like, it's not like I got dehydrated and I got to use products I use every Saturday, Sunday to get rehydrated. You have to use what the aid station has. So then there's the unknown of, I'm chugging all this goo octane. What if my body doesn't like it? Yep. So that was a little interesting little wrinkle. But,
so that was the toughest, probably 5 miles coming up out of Bumblebee, doing that hill, getting to Gloriana Mine. Was that the toughest part of the day for you?
Till the last 2 miles it was, yep.
Okay.
Because then after Gloriana, you kind of do a little bump up and down. It's like a squiggly line basically from Bumblebee to like 2 miles past Gloriana Mines.
Okay.
On the elevation chart. And then it's...
guys, I'll throw a link to the profile map from the Black Canyons page on our show notes so people could kind of see what it looks like.
So then finally you get to like mile 28, and mile 28 to mile 30 you're going down into this canyon. Basically like to what should be a riverbed. There's no water on the course this year, so it's just a wash. Okay, you hit mile 30. It's a half-mile climb back out of this wash. Then a half-mile down, so now you're at 31. Then you do another half-mile climb, maybe even 3/4 of a mile climb, into a very steep quarter-mile descent. And then you end with like basically a 200-meter jog into the finish line.
Wow. And
actually, the last 2 miles, I think probably just Wild Duluth residual fitness. I passed people on the climbs. Nice. Same thing that happened at Wild Duluth kind of happened at the Black Canyon 50K. Is that like there was more to give in my body? It's just like one system went offline. So like at Wild Duluth, it was my knee, and then at Black Canyon Ranch, I think I just got so dehydrated, I kind of got poopy. Like I was just so down in the dumps, like whatever, that I probably mentally defeated myself more than dehydration defeated me, but I finished. That's all that really matters.
That is. So you never ever felt like quitting at any point? You were just like, you knew you were going to get done, or was there times where you're like, nope, that's it, I'm pulling the plug?
I flew to Arizona and left my wife home alone with my toddler for 4 days and spent a bunch of money on this. So I was not going to call her and be like, yeah, I dropped at mile 20.
Yeah. Yeah. That was me too at the backcountry rise. I was like, my wife was so freaked out at the end because they had already tore down the finish line. And I forget Jeremy and his brother that run Daybreak. They were there, but like, she was she was upset. She was worried about me, but I was like, I was not going to not do this race, not going to not finish it. But
yeah.
So go ahead.
And I was never I was never worried about cutoffs. Like I finished in under, I think I was at like 9:17 or something. And
what is the cutoff?
Cutoff's 12 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I wasn't really chasing that. Yeah. And the other thing is like the way I kind of justify all the time and money that is spent on running is that it's being a model for my son in consistency, discipline, motivation, goal setting, reaching those goals, sacrificing to set those goals. Yep. So part of me with Wild Duluth and Black Canyons, part of not dropping is also like how he's only 2. He's not going to remember, but it's being consistent and teaching that message every day right now. So I can't just be dropping out because things got a little hard. If you break a bone, I'm not the kind of person where it's like, if you break your ankle, you better finish. Like a finish at all costs kind of guy. But if you know you're not doing anything long term, just finish. Or death march until they tell you can't be on the course anymore. No shame in that.
Till they pull you off. So you get done. I think you said you're a little over 9 hours. I assume you're happy with how the day went. It's considering you had that tough section. You finished, Erik. I see your time and I'm like, that's pretty darn quick for a day when it's hot and you're having problems. Because I don't know. I would be pretty happy. How are you feeling about it?
Disappointed. I was thinking I could go sub 7.
Sub
So
7.
yeah,
Oh.
I think
Oh.
on
Okay.
the day I probably could have. I probably didn't prepare as much for uphill running as I should have, but the course isn't that bad. It's first of all, it's beautiful. Like you're running through ranches. Like you run through a steer ranch, you run through a burro ranch. Like it's old school Western United States.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it to anyone. Just the net downhill, and you look at that elevation profile, Joey, and you're like, "There's not a lick of gain in this." Well, there's a half mile of gain in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's total of 2,000 feet, I think, at the end of the day.
my Garmin
Big
actually
gain.
had it at like 2,200 or 2,300.
Okay.
So it kind of depends, but yeah.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, you look at 2,000 feet over 31 miles and you're like, that's nearly flat. That's
yeah.
not that bad. Because I think Fire Tower 50K, which we could talk about later, I think I did that one. You're looking to do it, maybe, Eric. I think I gained 800 feet. So I'm like,
Oh,
oh, okay. So
Oh,
like a
really?
little twice that. And that Fire Tower, other than climbing the Fire Tower itself, it like feels completely flat all day long.
yeah.
It's just super nice. So would you go back and do it again, Eric?
I wouldn't, but not because I didn't like the race. I'm just
You
Michael
checked that
Versteeg.
box?
Yeah, Michael
Yeah.
Versteeg, who I really like, kind of talks about like he has one experience with a race and kind of moves on.
Yep.
And there's so many races, and I've kind of loosely floated the goal to my wife that I'd like to run an ultra in every state.
I knew you were going to say that. God dang it. Every state.
I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I love
So-
it. So I don't know if we're buddies, but Kevin, I can't think of Kevin's last name. He ran the Storm of the Day race with me last year. He's a filmmaker too, a YouTube filmmaker. He's from Wisconsin. He's doing that, Eric. In fact, I'll send you a link to his channel, but he is filming and he is doing and it's not an ultra, but it's like, I think they have to be 10 miles is his requirement
Okay.
race in every state. And he's gotten through probably 20 or so.
That's cool.
But yeah, he's doing exactly that. Mario, you interested in doing the Black Canyon race? Is that a race that interests you?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I've never done a race outside of Minnesota except for one. My only official marathon. I did the Dallas Marathon in 2022. After doing, I think I had done 6 ultras at that point. I went right from the half marathon distance to the 50K distance. And so I've only done one race out of Minnesota, but anything Arizona, Utah, that whole Southwest Western United States, that's definitely on my high on my bucket list for races to do.
Yeah.
Just going past the 50K distance, though, I feel like I've kind of been just signing up for the 50K distance, and I know in one of I can't remember if it was even earlier we were chatting or in your last episode, you said you had the ambition to run 100 miles at some point, and that's definitely on my on my list coming up here. I just don't know when and where yet, but that Black Canyon, that whole series just looks like so much fun, and I would totally.
Aravaipa, they are, if not one of the premier race organizations. Daybreak Racing, they're another one. They do backcountry rise. They're doing a lot of Debo stuff with Free Trail. His race is co-producing. Super great organization as well. And we've got, I want to give some homage to some of our great race series around here. I want to see if Bill and Mandy want to get on the pod and talk about the Storm Trail Race Series. I'd love to get Jameson Swift on, who does Fire Tower, and of course John, who does the Rock Steady stuff. We've got some good programs around here. So obviously we've got a lot of content here. This is not the last of these. I want to talk a little bit more, but I want to be cognizant of our time, and we're gonna have to save some of these topics for another day. But this is good. This is a good start. I want to talk a little bit about what each of our Eric, you've done I don't know if this was your goal race, your number one, your A race for the year, but Mario, let's hear from you a little bit. What are your plans, your race plans, if any, for the rest of this year? What are you thinking for 2025?
2025 is still a little bit up in the air. So every single year I think from the time I was 28. I've been doing a birthday run. So I run the number of miles for my age. So this year I turned 34. So I'll be doing a 34-mile run. Historically, I've just been doing it around my town. I live in Monticello, and so we have a lot of great sidewalks and pathway systems. And so I do a big, huge loop around the city and make it the distance at my age. So I will be doing my birthday run this year. The other
At what
target
age
race,
are you going to stop doing that, Mario? When you turn to be 57 like me, or is it going to be like, that's too much?
that would be epic, wouldn't it, to be on a 57-mile run at
Right,
57?
that's the goal.
So, yeah, I want to be able to run. I like to think of myself as like a diesel engine. Once I get warmed up and my feet going one after another, I can just go, and I don't need to go fast. I can go fast if I need to, but I don't like going fast by any means. I did my fastest 5K this last year, and it was the worst experience. But I'm thinking I really want to target fans 24-hour at the end of May, 1st of June. That's pretty high on the list. I just got to figure out some stuff logistically, getting to that race, and then keeping the family happy while something like that. That's a long time for me to be gone just running. It's a local one, so that helps. And then I'm probably going to be doing a Colorado race this fall with my brother. He lives out in Colorado Springs.
Is that Luke?
Yeah, yep, my brother Luke. So
I think he friended me on Strava, so I was like, that's got to be related to Mario.
Yeah, it's a pretty uncommon last name, unless you're in the White Bear Lake area. My Uncle Pat's a realtor, so you see his name all over the place. But yeah, I'm planning a late September trail race or race weekend. I'm not sure exactly which one yet, but be eyeing up something ultra distance in September.
Nice. Sounds good. The next Crew Access Volume 2, Mario, we're going to talk about, because I was on your guys' ultra sign-up pages. I want to talk. You did the Backyard Ultra.
I did do the Backyard. I'm wearing the shirt today.
Don't. Next time we're gonna have a full race breakdown on that, because I'm intrigued by those. I'm probably never going to do one, but I want to hear about your experience with that. Absolutely. Erik, you did Black Canyon's 50K. I know you've told me, and I can see on Ultra Sign Up, you're signed up already for a couple more. What's your tentative plans for 2025?
So next month I head out to Salt Lake City to do the Buffalo Run 50K.
Okay.
Buffalo Run's like a historic race. Carl Metzger's gone out there.
No relation to me, by the way. It's much faster than me.
The speed goat. No, it's just a really cool. It's on Antelope Island, so it's just like this island with buffalo on it, and you run through the buffalo herds and do whatever.
Have you seen videos on this, or how did you hear about this thing?
So, again, obsessed with running content. Borderlands, before they were a podcast, was a YouTube channel, and he has a friend. They have a video series called DFL, before DNF, and it's about his friend who the only cutoff for Buffalo Run was at the last aid station, and he made cutoff at the last aid station. So he marched like 6 miles in like 5 hours, like a horrible pace, but finished because they didn't have an official cutoff time. It was just that was the cutoff. But same thing, finish line had been torn down, whatever. Well, that was at this race, and so the landscape's awesome. It looks really cool, and like I said, I'm trying to kind of hit the different states and do whatever. Have a second kid coming in the middle of the summer, so that shortens that summer race season a little bit. So trying to do some stuff like right now. So doing that, and then in the fall right now, I'm signed up for Mindy Creek Trail Marathon. That was kind of purely location and financially motivated.
Erik, you sent us, Mario and I, a text of Facebook, and you guys, I'm telling my audience right now, these guys are my social media guys. I am trying to learn, doing the best I can, but you guys are way more plugged into stuff than I am. But Erik, you saw something posted for Mindy Creek about a new event. Have you heard any more on what that is or when it is? Or
no, that was early February, and so I, kind of depending on the scheduling of that, if that's like an October race, I'd be very excited to try and go and do an inaugural ultra.
We don't know what distance it is, or
they said ultra experience. Here, I check it like twice a day, and I actually have my Facebook up, so let me look at the exact wording. It just says, FYI, Minnesota and the Midwest ultra running community is about to get a thrilling new challenge this fall with a scenic and exhilarating race experience like no other. Stay tuned for details. That was February 3rd, and nothing else has come out. So I'm kind of waiting for that one. Otherwise, if nothing materializes, or if it's like a 50-miler, I'm just not going to have the time to dedicate to a 50-miler and make a cutoff this year. So I'll go back to Fire Tower and do the 50K.
Yeah. As I told you, it's a great race. It is flat. You will feel good. You will fly through it. I want to do it again and get, 7 hours. I don't think I could ever get my body to go under 7 hours, but I like it to start with a 7. I think that I could easily do that, especially if I'm not filming all day. But the aid stations are great. Pancakes, bacon. You climb the fire tower. It's really well supported. I highly recommend that. Cool. Very good. Well, for me, any other race plans, Erik? I don't want to cut you off.
That's all I got right now.
All right. I think you guys know I haven't officially signed up, but I keep checking to make sure that they're not going red on ultra sign up. Is Zumbro 50 mile, which I'm like, why would I? That's in April, which is in a month and a half. I'm like, well, and lately I haven't been running at all. I'm like, how am I going to do this? The reason it would be like, okay, 50 mile, I'm going to do that at the end of the year. That's your big goal. But it's like, it's in April, so you got to do it then. But the reason I'm doing it is that John has an 18-hour cutoff. You start at midnight and you get till, 6 o'clock the next day. And I'm like, what other 50-mile race has an 18-hour cutoff? There isn't any. They're just that I know of.
Buffalo Run 50 mile has it's a 20-hour cutoff for the 50K. I think it's almost 24 for the 50 mile.
Buffalo, that's in Utah?
Yeah, the one in March.
Yeah.
There you go, Joey.
I got to stick to home a little bit, guys. We've got a puppy that literally every day it's 2 hours of taking care of him and doing fluids, and
I bet Ricky would love Salt Lake City.
Maybe. We are driving him out to freaking California. He's coming with. So it's going to be me and my wife and the 2 dogs, and we're going to spend a few days to drive out there and take Ricky with us. Tim Tolson was so nice last year. I was like, because my heart was breaking. He had kidney disease, and I thought, I don't know what's going on with him. And I'm like, I cannot leave him. We were going to leave him with the dogs. They were like, nope, can't leave him. And I reached out to Tim, and Tim was just super nice. Emailed me back. He's like, I said, I know I can't get a refund. He's like, you're already refunded. You're signed up for next year. I'm like, what? He's like, yes. He's like, I just hope Ricky gets better. And I'm like, what a sweet guy.
That's amazing.
That's what's great about trail running. So, Tim's like that. Jim's the way he is. I met Max Joloff, same thing. He would have talked to me for hours. Dylan Bowman commenting on your stuff.
Yeah.
Troy from Mid-Pack.
Troy Meadows?
Yeah, like you said he was
super nice. I reached out to him on Strava, and the next thing I know, we're texting, and he's running with me out at Afton State Park. Yeah. Everybody is just fantastic. It's one of the reasons I think that draws us back to do it, as we do these races and meet people. But yeah, so this year for me, I haven't signed up yet, but I'm putting it out there. Zumbro 50 mile because it's 18 hours. Yep, doing that. And then, Erik, I might also do that Afton 25K in July. I like to run out there. I think it's good. I normally am like, oh, it's summer, July, it's hot. Yeah, I need to push myself. That would be I don't want to do the 50K, but the 25K, it'll be nice. And then I've got Mammoth Trail Fest in September, and probably want to do maybe 1 or 2 more. I just don't know what. Like Mario, I haven't quite picked yet. So,
what distance are you doing at Mammoth Trail Fest?
The 50K.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I am, we'll talk next podcast. We'll break down the Mammoth Trail Fest because I want to talk about that. Because Erik spent the whole time talking about Erik, so Mario and I got to get some stuff in. We'll talk about Mario's experience doing the Backyard Ultra up in Elm Creek, and I'll talk about Mammoth Trail Fest. But I'm doing the 50K because the cutoff is long. It's I think it's a 13-hour cutoff or 12-hour cutoff.
Okay.
And there are a lot of challenges with that, but we'll save that for next time.
First year, the Mammoth 200 miler?
Yep.
Oh, is that the new race, Mammoth 200 mile?
Yeah, that's the one that Sally and Tim designed. Well, Tim designed it, I think, and then Sally ran it.
Got it. Guys, we got so much to talk about. I'm gonna call it quits for today, guys. And I'm gonna have to edit this down because right now it's like my clock is like, oh my gosh, no one's gonna listen that long. But so I'll figure out something to edit this down and get it to a reasonable amount of time. But before we sign off, last question for you: ultimate dream race. Money's no object. Time, schedule's no object. What's your ultimate dream race, Mario? You got one in mind?
Cocodona.
Cocodona 250?
Yeah, Cocodona 250.
All right. I got a feeling I know Erik's answer. Erik, what's your dream race?
Mine's also Cocodona 250.
God dang it, you guys. What are you thinking? It's 250 miles, right?
Yeah, but like all the cool little towns, like Jerome is carved into the side of a mountain. You get to just so much stuff. I mean, you're going through Sedona. You're going through... so Black Canyon Trail runs along the Bradshaws. And in Cocodona, you're going through the Bradshaws. You hit the Granite Dells out by Prescott. It's just every 20 miles, you're in a new landscape. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, every 20 miles, because you have to run 250 damn miles. And Erik, it's going to be even hotter than it was in January or February.
That would be a multi-year goal. I think it starts with a 50K no aid, or one aid station, no crew.
Yeah,
it does.
Like the hottest part of the course.
All right.
Well, Joey, you said on your very first episode that this podcast is about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and I consider myself a very ordinary person that likes to push what people think is possible, and so doing something that looks hard, and then once you accomplish that, it's a feeling that unless you've done it, you can't really describe it to people. It's just pushing that next limit. So I'm constantly seeking it, and maybe I'll find it.
It's also over a 100-hour cutoff.
Yeah, true. Right.
That's true.
It's got a long cutoff. Well, all right. That's not my dream. I get it. I totally get it. And I will be there to support either or both of you. Absolutely. I will be right there. I'll be your crew.
What's your answer?
My answer? That's putting me on the spot. This is going to sound really stupid because I'll never, but I said the rules were, it doesn't matter. You can do anything you want. Western states.
Ooh. Good one.
I would freaking love to do Western states because it's net downhill. The cutoff's a little tight, but I would love to do Western states. I just love the beautiful country. Of course, it's our iconic race in the United States. UTMB would be cool too, but Western states. That's it. Yeah, that's mine. I will be there to support you guys doing the Cocodona 250. One of my Strava buddies, Tony, who's been on with Ben on Chasing Cutoffs, is doing Cocodona 250 this year. He lives up in Alaska, and he's training away. He's going to do the Cocodona 250, and I've been messaging with him. He says he's going to come on the podcast, and so I'll get a little recap and see how it goes.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna hit stop here, and I think this will be it for our first one. I'm gonna have to try to edit this down because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So hope you guys had fun, and hope everybody listening had fun. But hopefully there'll be more of these to come.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks
Definitely.
for having us on, Joey.
All right,
this was great.
Guys. Well, there we go. Episode 2 and Crew Access Volume 1 complete. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed meeting Erik and Mario and hearing their stories. They will definitely be back for future volumes. And if you did enjoy it, then you know what to do. Please rate, review, subscribe, follow. It really helps grow the podcast. And if you didn't enjoy it, that is perfectly okay too. Go check out Chasing Cutoffs with Ben Mead. I promise you won't be disappointed. Feel free to check out my YouTube channel if you need a little visual storytelling. Who knows, you may even find a couple films with Erik, Mario, and me together. As always, if you have a great story to tell, then send me a message on my Instagram. You'll find links to all of those, as well as links to a couple of the races we talked about today in my show notes. So that's it. Until next time, cheers and take care. Keep running, keep walking. Keep moving forward. Stay optimistic and do what you do. We might be slow, we might be running behind, but we'll get there. We will cross that finish line.